Hey, shalom everyone. I'm Amir Tsarfati from Connect here in Galilee, in the Jezreel Valley in Israel. And once again, we are here for Explore the Bible. This is a program where we help you not just to read, but to study the Bible and go deeper and ask the right questions and give you the tools to gather the right answers as well. So, together with me, as always, Dr. Rick Yon from Parker, Colorado. Shalom, Dr. Yon. How are you?
I am doing fine. And boy, what an exciting time we can have today as we look at John chapter 6 and Jesus walking on the water.
Yes, you're right. The last program, we dealt with the feeding of the 5,000, and we concluded, that this is one of those stories that appear in all four Gospels, and we were able to gather from each gospel one more piece of information that eventually gave us all the answers to the when, where, how, why, and what. It was phenomenal. This is exactly what we're trying to do today, also in our story today. And again, Pastor Rick, most of us think that we know the story, but what is the story? I mean, what might we be missing in what we think we know about the story?
Well, why don't you read the story? And as you read it, I'm just asking our viewers to listen carefully. And then we're going to give you some other passages to look at so we get the full scope of what the Lord's trying to tell us with
Yes,
Jesus walking on the water.
exactly. And again, uh, we're trying to explore the Bible rather than just read the Bible. And so here we are reading from John chapter 6, verses 16 to 24. Now, when evening came, his disciples went down to the sea, got into the boat, and went over the sea toward Capernaum. And it was already dark, and Jesus had not come to them. Then the sea arose because a great wind was blowing. So when they had rowed about 3 or 4 miles, they saw Jesus walking on the sea and drawing near the boat, and they were afraid. But he said to them, "It is I. Do not be afraid." Then they willingly received him into the boat, and immediately the boat was at the land where they were going. On the following day, when the people who were standing on the other side of the sea saw that there was no other boat there except that one which his disciples had entered, and that Jesus had not entered the boat with his disciples, but his disciples had gone away alone. However, other boats came from Tiberias near the place where they ate bread after the Lord had given thanks. When the people therefore saw that Jesus was not there, nor his disciples, they also got into boats and came to Capernaum, seeking Jesus. So that's all the way to verse 24.
And as we
So,
look
what
at
is the
this,
story?
the story is more than what you have just read.
Oh, I'm
And
sure
so
it
I
is.
want and I want our viewers to look at these other gospels. Now, in the feeding of the 5,000, all four gospels mention that story, that event. But with Jesus walking on the water, only three gospels mention it. And we'll talk more about that a little bit later. But I would encourage you to look at Matthew chapter 14
Yes.
and Mark chapter 6. So let's go
Yeah.
back to Matthew
Yeah.
chapter
So,
14.
And it's same chronological order. After the feeding of the 5,000, now we have walking on the sea.
Now, notice it says at verse 22, immediately Jesus made his disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side while he sent the multitudes away. So it seems right here's a separation. Jesus dealing with the multitudes, but he tells the disciples, get in the boat right away. Make your way over to the other side. Now, there's a reason for that. We don't find it here, but we're going to find it. He had sent the multitudes away. He went up on the mountain by himself to pray.
Yeah.
Now, when evening came, he was alone there, but the boat was now in the middle of the sea. So we are going to start with not the who, but the where. Where are they at this point? They're in the middle of the sea, tossed by the waves, for the wind was contrary.
Yeah.
Now, we dealt with the where question. That's where the disciples are. When is this taking place? It says in the fourth watch of the night. Amir, what's the fourth watch of the night?
Well, the first watch is from 6 p.m. to 9. The second is 9 to 12. The third is 12 to 3. And then the fourth is 3 to 6. So
Okay.
if we're talking about the fourth watch is from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m.
Okay. So they've basically been rowing all night.
Exactly.
And they just got to the middle of the sea. And that's very important. In the fourth night, Jesus went to them walking on the sea. And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, it's a ghost. And they cried out for fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them. Be of good cheer. It is I. Do not be afraid.
Yes.
So, what is this happening? The fourth watch. They've been rowing all night. They've only gotten to the middle of the sea, and they're going from the east side to the west side. Now, let's see what Mark has to say about this event. And we go back to Mark chapter 6, because
Correct.
he adds some more.
Mm-hmm.
Mark chapter 6.
Yep. And that, again, chronologically, even there, it comes right after the feeding of the 5,000. Jesus walks on the sea from verse 45 and on. So immediately he made his disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side, to Bethsaida, while he sent the multitude away. And when he had sent them away, he departed to the mountain to pray. Now, when evening came, the boat was in the middle of the sea, and he was alone on the land. Then he saw them straining at rowing, for the wind was against them. Now about the fourth watch of the night he came to them, walking on the sea, and would have passed them by. And when they saw him walking on the sea, they supposed it was a ghost, and cried out. For they all saw him, and were troubled. But immediately talked with them, and said to them, Be of good cheer, it is I. Do not be afraid. Then he went up into the boat to them, and the wind ceased, and they were greatly amazed in themselves, beyond measure, and marveled. So, and you can see that they had not understood about the loaves because their heart was hardened. So you can clearly see what a series of events.
So we're still talking. Yeah. And we're still talking about bread here.
Exactly.
And it's the fourth watch. And I love the phrase, he would have passed them by.
Mhm.
It's so interesting. It's not like he has been praying throughout the night and he starts walking on the sea in order to get in the boat. No, he's on his way walking back to Capernaum. And they're going, it's the ghost. And then he hops in the boat with them. And I'm just thinking, was it Matthew's gospel where Peter comes out? Peter wants to get into this. Yeah. Let's just go back to Matthew's gospel a minute. Matthew chapter
Yep.
14. And
Matthew 14. Yep.
in verse 27, it says, but immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, be of good cheer, it is I, do not be afraid.
Mm-hmm.
And Peter answered him and said, Lord, if it's you, command me to come to you in the water.
Yeah.
So he said, come. And when Peter had come down out of the boat, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. But when he saw that the wind was boisterous, he was afraid. And he began to sink, and he cried out, saying, Lord, save me. And immediately Jesus stretched out his hand and caught him and said to him, oh, you of little faith,
Mm-hmm.
why did you doubt? And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased. And then those who were in the boat came and worshipped him, saying, truly, you are the Son of God. So we see in this story, not only do you have the disciples and Jesus, but you also have Peter, who has the courage and the faith to start walking on the water. But then he looked around him and he saw how badly the situation he was in, and he began to sink. And he cries out, oh, Lord, save me. But I want to point out a phrase that is used that when you read it, it doesn't mean much, but in the Greek language, it means a lot.
And which is that in the Matthew account?
In the
Or
Matthew
the
account, in
okay.
several accounts, look at verse 7 or 27. But immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, be of good cheer, it is I. In the Greek, he is saying, I am. I
Yeah.
am.
So the Greek is ego eimi.
Ego eimi.
I am.
The I am. And in John 8:58, he uses that phrase again. I am. Before Abraham was, I am. Jesus is telling the disciples, I am the I am that Moses saw, that Moses encountered when God told him to go to Egypt. And Moses says, well, if I go there, I don't even know your name. Who are you?
Yeah.
And God says, I am who I am.
Who I am.
And so he is equating himself, Jesus is
To God.
equating himself with the God that spoke to Moses. And then they bow and worship him, recognizing who he truly is.
Just like
And so we
it
see
did
a number of
in
miracles.
Revelation. Yeah, just in Revelation, I'm the Alpha and the Omega, the Aleph and the Tav, beginning and the end. That's the only. This is how God describes himself in the book of Isaiah quite a few times. So same thing.
Yes. And we just see that as they fall down and worship him, there are several miracles in this John chapter 6. You have the miracle of the feeding of the 5,000.
Mm-hmm.
You have the miracle of Jesus walking on the water. But there's a third miracle, and we find this back in John chapter 6, in verse 21. Then they willingly received him into the boat, and immediately the boat was at the land where they were gone.
Wow,
Now,
that's quite an interesting thing, because the last time we found it, it was in the middle
they were in the middle
of
of
the
the Sea
lake.
of Galilee, and suddenly they're right near Capernaum,
Yeah,
Gennesaret. How did that
yeah,
happen?
yeah.
That's the third miracle
You're right. It reminds me
in
of when
John
the
6.
when the Israelites came out of Egypt, and the Lord took them as on wings of eagles, swiftly to area that it would take way longer to get there unless God miraculously brought them there. So it's beautiful.
And what is interesting, the why Jesus told them to immediately get in the boat is because, look at verse 15 of John chapter 6. Therefore, when Jesus perceived that they were about to come and take him by force to make him king, he departed again to the mountain by himself. That's why he told the disciples to immediately get in the boat. We could have a big problem here because
Big,
it's not my time. And
exactly,
these people now said, "You, the prophet." And that brings us to the question, what's the story behind the story?
exactly.
And the story behind the story, just go turn to Deuteronomy chapter 18.
Deuteronomy chapter 18.
What I love to do in my Bible studies is to connect dots. And when you ask about the story behind the story, you are talking about the Old Testament. And in Deuteronomy chapter
Prophet like
18,
Moses.
exactly. Why don't you
Hmm.
read that,
Yeah,
Amir? 18.
yeah. So verse 15 and on, it says, "The Lord your God will raise up for you a prophet like me from your midst, from your brethren. Him you shall hear, according to all you desired of the Lord your God in Horeb, in the day of the assembly, saying, Let me not hear again the voice of the Lord my God, nor let me see this great fire any more, lest I die. And the Lord said to me, What they have spoken is good. I will raise up from them a prophet like you from among their brethren, and will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak to them all that I command him. And it shall be that whoever will not hear my words, which he speaks in my name, I will require it from him. But the prophet who presumes to speak a word in my name, which I have not commanded him to speak, or who speaks in the name of other gods, that prophet shall die. And if you shall say in your heart, How shall we know the word which the Lord has not spoken? When a prophet speaks in the name of the Lord, if the thing does not happen or come to pass, that is the thing which the Lord has not spoken. The prophet has spoken it presumptuously. You shall not be afraid of him. Wow. I mean, I can think of so many people that, according to this, should be dead. But never mind. I don't want to go there.
There's just so much in here. And when you look at this story behind the story, it is just so wonderful to think they're saying, hey, this is the prophet, which is like saying, this is the Messiah, this is the king. Let's make him king right now. And that's why he says, get in the boat. I'm going up to a mountain to pray.
Yeah.
Also, we find in the Old Testament, Exodus chapter 14. So let's look at Exodus chapter 14.
Yeah. Exodus 14. I see it right there. The Red Sea crossing.
The Red Sea crossing.
Mm-hmm.
And here we see another problem. They're just coming out of Egypt. They want to go to the promised land, but there's a barrier. And the barrier is the Red Sea.
Yeah.
And so Moses raises his hands. All of a sudden, that sea parts so that the people could walk through the dry land. But when it comes to Jesus, Jesus did not have to part the Sea of Galilee to get to the other side. He walks on top of the Sea of Galilee to get to
He
the
is
other
God.
side. He is God. He is than Moses, because Moses had to part the sea for people to go on dry land. Jesus doesn't need dry land because he is the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, and he has the ability to walk on water.
Yeah.
So again and again, you see the Old Testament, the New Testament, everything connects.
Yeah. And it's amazing, Pastor Rick, the Jewish people at the time memorized most of the Old Testament, but the book they memorized the most was the book of Psalms. It's easier to memorize it. It's more of songs and way to. It's easier to remember that. And so remember the storm quieted, and they were marveled, and I'm reminded of Psalm 89, verses 8 and 9. So because they know the Psalms, and it says, "O Lord God of hosts, who is mighty like you, O Lord? Your faithfulness also surrounds you." And look at verse 9. "You rule the raging of the sea. When its waves rise, you still them." So definitely these verses are about God, about the Lord, and they saw it in action before their very eyes on the Sea of Galilee, with that wind that was quieted by Jesus, and the fact that they, boom, got to wherever they needed to go to get effortlessly. So again, in their mind, I think what they're asking is Emmanuel, is the Lord, is God with us? I mean, this is phenomenal, because only God can do such things. I mean, it's amazing.
Just talking about the Psalms, here's another Psalm, Psalm 77 and verse 19. Your way was in the sea, your path in the great waters, and your footsteps were not known.
Amazing.
So once again, we see God and the sea, and the fact that you connect this prophet, the prophet of God, and you see God walking on the water. The water doesn't need to part for God. No, God walks on the water.
Amazing. Wow. I mean,
So
it's amazing how
one
much we are
chapter,
learning here.
in one chapter, 3 miracles: feeding 5,000, walking on water, and being in the middle of the sea until Jesus gets in the boat, and then they've landed. How
I
do you
mean,
explain that?
literally landed. Yeah, it's phenomenal. It's amazing. It's beautiful. And wow, we definitely explored the Bible
And
today.
it's just a matter of not just reading the Bible, but exploring the Bible. Ask questions, and then use your pen, use
So I
your
have a
paper
question.
for
Yeah,
your.
I have a question for you. Just by ways of being practical, and just by way of explaining to lay people who are not professors or pastors, or so how do you know where to look elsewhere? I mean, give us like a specific books or tools to understand that there are parallels elsewhere that they can
Yeah.
get and glean more information. So you did mention Blue Letter Bible, but what else
Yeah,
can people look for?
I'm just so glad you asked that question because I have a Bible toolbox. And my Bible toolbox includes all kinds of wonderful tools. Yesterday, gentleman next door uh, needed to pull out roots from a huge hedge, and he had his Jeep. He had a big tire. He had uh, a line that goes where he tied to the roots, and then he started pulling back in his Jeep, and the tire was moving, and the roots are pulled out. And I said, "Boy, it's great, first of all, to know what to do, how to do it, and then having tools that you
To
know
do
how
it.
to work with."
Exactly.
So not only can you use blueletterbible.org, but if you have a Bible that has references either in the center column or on the sides, those are the references that you follow. You'll see letters A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then you'll see a verse. And when you connect those, you will find these Old Testament references.
Is there a
Now, if you want to
Bible
do
that
it,
is there a Bible that gathers all of these things? Like whenever you read
well,
John John 6, everything we talked about kind of appears there.
I I have a Bible. Notice all the notes,
I do
and then
notice
I have
that.
the center reference that gives me
Okay.
those
Or
clues.
which Bible is this?
Well, this is I use the NIV,
Yeah, but
and
I don't care
so
about the. It's not the translation I'm asking about.
translation.
It's the actual.
Yeah,
It's the actual. Uh, what is it? Is it a study Bible? It's called study Bible.
no, it's not a study Bible; it's just a regular Bible.
Just a regular Bible, and
Yeah,
make sure that you have all the cross references either on the sides or underneath or in the middle, and follow them, use them.
but let me give you another one,
Okay.
and I encourage you not to be afraid of AI. Remember, AI. There's no individual when you talk
Mm-hmm.
to AI. You're not. There's no human being on the other side. They're just analog, or what I want to say. Anyway, when you go to AI, you can ask AI, what are the Old Testament references for John chapter 6?
And
And
in your
boom,
experience, is it accurate?
it's accurate. In fact, you can also check to find out where they got that information.
Hmm.
And if you have any fear, you can always ask, from an evangelical perspective, what are the references in the Old Testament for John chapter 6,
I see.
or John chapter 6, verse 5, or John chapter 6, verse 10? And it
I
will give
see.
you immediately those references.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
I've done that on numerous
So
occasions,
yeah,
and I'm amazed how
Rick,
accurate it is.
how long have you been? How many years have you been teaching the Bible?
Well, let's see, it's probably 70 years.
So, as a teacher of 70 years, you are not afraid of going to AI and using that tool.
Well, if you remember in Fort Worth, what I showed you when I was I was sitting on a steer. That was real. You pay $10 and you can sit on this live steer. And I had someone take a picture of me doing that. And then I took that photo and I put it on an AI app and asked the AI to make that steer jump and try to buck me off. And it did exactly that. And I can remember showing you that, and you said, Rick, you should never do that. I mean, you could have gotten hurt. And it just
You
shows
fooled
you
me.
the and that's a problem with AI, because it takes something that is not real and makes it real, makes it look real. But that's
And
not the
that's why I'm
problem.
asking. Yeah, that's why I'm asking you
Yeah.
about, being a teacher of the Bible for so many years and yet not being afraid to use AI tools to help you study the Bible.
No, and again, you can just use that phrase from an evangelical perspective
I see. Wow.
and make
So
I do that
uh,
on a regular basis.
that's great. So, Pastor Rick, look, it's amazing how much we've learned here in this story, and we've definitely explored the Bible today once again. And I think this chapter also allowed people to understand not just how we can understand deeper a story, but what are the tools that we can have in order to better dive deeper into every portion of the Bible. And I think that there's nothing better than using the Bible to explain the Bible, than going to other
And
places in the Bible to shed light on the portion that we are.
I
I'm
just want
looking.
to say,
Yeah, go
can
ahead.
I say one other thing?
Yes.
I want our viewers to realize that what I've just shared with them, I have learned recently. Every day when I'm in the Word, I ask the Holy Spirit to open my eyes to see so I can understand. And the more I read this, that's how I came up with the three miracles. This idea of Jesus getting in the boat and all of a sudden they're on shore, I did not see that as a miracle at first. And then more I looked at that, I thought, wow, how did that happen? That's a miracle.
Yeah.
So I want you to know that I am learning every day. I
Yeah.
am constantly growing in my faith and growing in the study of the Word. And what I'm sharing with you is not old sermons that I preached when I was a pastor. This is all fresh.
Beautiful.
And that's why I encourage you to just get into the Word, to ask questions, and you'll see how fresh the Word of God
Yeah.
becomes to you.
And it's never too late to do that. Even if you've been studying the Bible for 70 years, you can still
Yeah.
learn every day more and more things. Pastor Rick, thank you so much for this amazing, informative, and spirit-filled time we had. And I want to encourage everybody not just to watch this, but also share it with friends and family and people that are struggling with how to approach the Bible and how to read and glean from it more. There's so much to glean, so much to learn, so much to see, and so much to be encouraged by. So, again,
Amen.
Pastor Rick, thank you for being with us. Thank you guys for watching. Share it with as many as you can. Until next time, shalom and goodbye from Galilee, Israel, and Parker, Colorado.